This house looks like a deal at first glance, under $400,000 and about $147 per square foot. But when you take a closer look, you can see that a lot of maintenance has been deferred. If you're dealing with an inherited property and trying to decide whether to sell as is or update first, this is exactly the kind of analysis that matters. Often when homes are inherited or left vacant for a period of time, routine maintenance stops getting done. At the same time, there's usually an emotional attachment involved, which can make pricing difficult. When emotional value and underestimated renovation costs come into play, expectations can be skewed. The market, however, doesn't price memories. It prices condition and comparable sales. So let's take a look at a nearby house I found on Zillow. From the listing photos alone, you can already see signs of deferred maintenance. This makes it a good case study because condition determines buyer behavior and buyer behavior determines price. What's helpful here is that the listing clearly states this is a fixer-up being sold as is. It's a single-family home with 2,444 square feet, 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. However, when you look more closely, one of those bedrooms is actually a converted garage. According to the property appraiser site, the converted garage does count towards total square footage. That said, many buyers don't view converted garages the same way they view original living space. So while it counts on paper, it doesn't always carry the same value in a buyer's mind. The next thing I look at is the roof. The property appraiser site shows the roof as being from 2009, which means a replacement is likely coming up soon. Buyers will factor that in immediately. They may not even be able to buy it with a 2009 roof. A lot of insurance companies won't insure the property. The listing also mentions a newer AC system and water heater, but there are no permits listed in the appraiser site. That puts the responsibility on the buyer to determine whether those installations are acceptable. Because of that uncertainty, many rehabbers and flippers will assume they need to replace those systems anyway, and they will price the home accordingly. So after I find out information about the major systems, I finish viewing the rest of the photos on the site. At first glance, I would say that the entire interior needs to be repainted. I would personally replace all of the floors. There's just several different tiles throughout the house. The kitchen, if we want to be conservative, let's say we can keep the cabinets and change the countertops out. We do need new appliances. They're missing a refrigerator and a stove. As you continue going through the house, again, it just definitely tell that the paint needs to be refreshed. I would get new light fixtures, ceiling fans. You can see there's various areas that need to be repaired as well. In the bedroom, there's some patchwork that was done in the walls. This guest bathroom alone, I would get worried that there's some water damage in the corner by the door, so I'm not sure what that would open up. And in my opinion, this entire bathroom would need to be redone. You're not really sure what's in the shower right now without going to look at it, but I would account for a complete rehaul of the bathroom. The next bedroom leads us into more tile, different tile in each bedroom, replaced with the same type of flooring all throughout the house, paint both the bedrooms, like we said, paint all of the walls. Laundry room needs a washer and dryer, but it's the little stuff too. If you look at the shelves, they're dirty, need to be replaced. It looks like you're missing some closet doors. So just a lot of deferred things that over time you need to keep up, and if you don't, those items just start to add up. If you keep going through the house, you get into the master bedroom, which again has another type of tile flooring, needs fresh paint. You get into the bathroom, it just needs to be redone. You can tell the mirrors had it. It's a very old vanity, definitely original to the house. The shower is interesting because it has a window to the outside world, so we'd have to get that covered up. It looks like there's some missing tiles chipped out of there, so again, you get worried about water intrusion and what will you find under the tiles. You know, there is an old shed in the back that's up to you whether you want to keep it or not. But the really nice thing is the whole backyard is fenced in. So if you have pets or kids, this looks like a great space for them to be outside to run around in, and definitely enough room like if you want to add a screened in porch or something. All right, so let's talk about all of the things that need to be replaced or updated or redone to get this house into, you know, a more livable condition. All right, we said the roof. The roof's probably going to cost around $18,000. New AC unit, maybe for that size house, around $7,000. We said probably a water heater, that's around $2,000. If you got new floors for the entire house, $18,000, give or take. Fresh paint on the walls, wall repair, it depends if you do it yourself or if you hire someone professionally. If you hire someone professionally, you're probably looking around $8,000. The kitchen, if you only replace the countertops, you know, maybe $3,500, $5,000 there. If you go all out on a new kitchen, you're looking at probably $10,000 to $20,000, depending on what you want to do. The two bathrooms to update, again, the one, we're not sure if there's water damage. Actually, both we're not sure if there's water damage. So I would go somewhere between $7,000 to $15,000. Again, just depends on what you want to have done. So then, you know, I always tack on a little bit of extra for light fixtures, updated, just any other types of updates that you might come across when you're doing the renovations. So my guess for this house alone, the total renovation cost would be somewhere between $80,000 to $100,000. So that depends what you're going to have done professionally versus what you're going to put your sweat equity into. That being said, the median price of homes in that area of Casselberry, Florida, which is where we're looking, is, let's say, roughly around $475,000. And this house is currently listed at $360,000, which seems pretty good. But again, you know, we talked a little bit about that garage square footage. So in my opinion, they're not overpriced necessarily where they're trying to get absolute top dollar for it. But a house like this is still going to bring in lower offers. I would say probably between $250,000 to $300,000. You know, they might get $330,000 if they're lucky, just due to the extensive repairs that need to be made. So as a seller of this type of property, you need to keep in mind that you're going to get all sorts of investor offers that come through. Lots of people in Central Florida are investors looking for properties just like this, and they're going to come in on the lower end, and that's okay. You as the seller can decide what type of offer to take and what you're willing to wait for. Now keep in mind, when a property doesn't have the major systems done, like when a house isn't insurable or if it doesn't meet FHA loan standards qualifications, you know, there are certain things that need to be done. So in my opinion, this house either needs a cash buyer, you know, maybe someone moving out of state looking for a project, or they do need an investor to come in and purchase the house. So when you're getting ready to list a house that you know needs a lot of work, you need to keep that in mind for the buyers, and you need to price it accordingly. This isn't about whether a house is good or bad. It's about lining condition with market reality. If you're dealing with a home that needs work, especially one that's been inherited or vacant, understanding how buyers see condition is the first step at setting a price that actually works.